Well, what's going on, everybody out there in YouTube land? I know it's another one of those spur of the moment random streams, but it is now 4:20 in the morning, and I got a fire going, and I decided to sit here and do a stream. I don't expect anybody to show up, but why the hell not? Sitting out here by the fire, looking at the stars, seeing if I see any moving lights out there again. I probably won't do a whole bunch of talking unless people got me something to talk about. What's going on, Billy? Morning time to you, sir. It's bedtime. I've been up since about midnight, and I decided to start a fire, maybe watch the sun come up. Depends on how long I sit here or how long I got the fire going. But I didn't expect anybody to show up. I was just kind of doing a random spur of the moment type of stream anyway, and really didn't have anything to talk about unless you guys got something to talk about. I went to bed kind of early last night. Actually before the sun went down. Got up around midnight, and I've been up ever since. That's surprising. I got 3 people according to this thing, I got 3 people in. That's unusual. I'll be surprised to get I normally don't get, like, more than 5 people in a stream, so, I mean, I'll be surprised if that many people show up this morning. But looks like there is a couple of lurkers in there in the background, though. I've had deer wandering around out there in the yard this morning. Been making the dogs go crazy. They hear them rustling around out there, and they start barking and shit and going crazy. But it's a beautiful night, and I've been out here looking at the stars, seeing if I see any moving lights again. I haven't seen any yet. Well, I mean, I haven't noticed any, put it that way. Doesn't mean they're out there. Oh, Cola, what's going on? What's up, girl? Morning time to you. You know, it's another one of those random spur of the moment streams. Decided to come out and see if anybody had anything to do or anything was going on, and I didn't think anybody would show up, but here we are. I didn't really have anything planned when it comes down to things to talk about, but if anybody has anything they want to talk about, man, put it in the chat and talk about it. Just like I said, I mean, I feel like I get into a Navy vet. Look who's talking, sir. Yeah, well, in a couple hours, I might just sit here and watch the sun come up. I decided, I was uh I was kind of bored. I'm awake. Been up since midnight. It's just 5 minutes after 4:20. I had people believe I was a vampire for a while. I used to live in a 1976 Cadillac hearse with a bored out 502 engine in it, tie dye curtains, and Grateful Dead stickers. So people thought I was a vampire for a while. So I only came out at nighttime. I never came out during the day. I had kids that used to live. What is up, Indy? Morning time to you. Oh, I'm surprised to see people in here this morning. It's like another one of those random streams. I just start a fire and sit here and yeah, I started the stream at exactly 4:20 with not a goddamn thing to smoke other than tobacco. Kind of sucks. Wish I had a fat blunt to smoke right now. Yeah, yeah, yeah. If anybody does want to come up, man, you guys let me know if anybody wants to come up on panel or whatever. Uh, yeah, I appreciate it, Andy. I mean, I- it's I appreciate you sharing it out and everything and stuff like that. I didn't expect anybody to show up. I mean, honestly, I was kind of just bored and decided to start a fire and and I was like, well, hell, I might as well go ahead and do a stream while I'm sitting here. And if I sit here long enough, I might even watch the sun come up. I've been up since about midnight, but dogs have been barking off and on. There's deer down there um, in the in the down the hill a little bit. They've been walking around, and dogs have been going crazy about it. Plus the wolves down the way, man, will start howling and stuff, and get the dogs start howling back at them and shit. But like I said, I didn't really have a whole lot to talk about. Just just wanted to hang out. What is Huckberry? What's going on? Holy crap! Just came back from work on the Jeep. We're not allowed to work on our cars here, so we have to do everything at night. Yeah, no kidding, Navy vet. I feel the same way about a lot of things, man. It's like, like hunting out here on the property and stuff. It's like what the damn game ward don't know won't hurt them, right? Or whatever, you know what I mean? Government officials just they want to micromanage our fucking lives, man. I'm so sick and tired of that shit. It's not what this fucking nation's supposed to be about and be like. But unfortunately, man, we've been domesticated into this fucking bullshit. But hopefully, that's true. It ain't illegal unless you get caught. That's damn true. I'm telling you, man. I'm kinda glad I grew up in the time that I grew up in, man, because there's a lot of stuff, man, that just never made it on the internet. You know, if at all, it's probably surviving in a Polaroid or a fucking VHS tape somewhere, if it survived. Uh, Oh, what's up, old head? What's up going on, sir? Morning time to you. Yeah, well, in the '80s and '90s, there was a chance of VHS because I mean, but, like I said, if anything survived from back then, it's on some Polaroid or a VHS tape or, maybe even Betamax or something like that, but that's only if it survived. But, I'm kinda glad for that though, it's like there's my youth is not necessarily immortalized on the internet for fucking as long as the internet lives. You know? That's what I don't understand about children today. I mean, I wonder what people in about 200 years, if the internet's still around and everything's still there, what people in 200 years are gonna think of us the videos that we are making today when they're watching them 200 years from now. I've always wondered that shit. I start thinking about like, the kids today. Will they be proud of what they've done and put on the internet when they get 60 years old? They're obviously not thinking about that though. That's for true there, old head. They're definitely not uh what we were sold. We were sold a whole lot of stuff our entire lives, and it's just never turned out to be what we were sold. And like I said, I mean, if anybody does want to come up and hang out on panel, um, yeah, just let me know and I'll put the link in. But otherwise, I'm just going to sit here and enjoy the fire. It's actually not too bad temperature wise, and makes it kind of comfortable with the fire going. Sit here and stare at the stars for a minute. Fuck is that sneaking around over there? Big girl, is that you? What are you guys doing? Come here. Oh, okay. What are you doing over there, big girl? Get your dirty feet off of me a little bit. Hey, girls. Stop putting your dirty feet all over me, you stinker. I don't want your dirty feet all over me. This year. No wind at all, very clear skies. Actually, yeah, I mean, it's mostly clear skies out here. I mean, we had rain, we had some really cloudy skies yesterday, like it was going to rain, but it never did. And but tonight is pretty clear. Yeah, you can see the stars really well. That's one thing I like about where I'm at. There's no light pollution where I'm at. So I mean, it makes it really easy to see the stars around here. I mean, I can see, on a clear night, I can see the Milky Way plain as day. That's why I enjoy coming out here when it's clear and looking for those little lights floating across the sky. And makes it easy to see them. Sorry to bring up Charlie, back to Epstein. Yeah, well, I'm gonna tell you, man. Me personally, man, I've got Kirk fatigue. Um, I've had Kirk fatigue for a couple of weeks now, and I really can't wait until. Yeah, old head. I've been watching that too. You know, I'm not sure what to um, what to think about it when it comes down to it, because there is a lot of amateur astronomers out there that are watching this shit, but what NASA's putting out, I'm not really sure what to think about it. Um, but if it's nothing more than just a big rock floating around, which possibly it is, you know, uh, whatever. If it's not, and it's something else, it would be interesting to see what comes out of that. Well, I'll tell you this: the only light pollution that I've got close to me is, I don't know, about 15-minute driving distance, is a prison, and that's way off in the distance from here, you know. And there's like a slight orange glow in the distance, but other than that, there is nothing. I don't have street lights. Um, I don't have lights around my house, and unless I turn them on. Um, and even then, there's just like, even now at this time in the morning, the battery's already you know drained because we got, solar powered like yard lights and stuff like that out here sometimes. And, by this time in the morning, the battery's already drained out. So there is no more lights around here. I mean, there's just nothing when it comes down to it. Very few houses around here keep, I mean, they keep a couple of, outside lights going, but very few. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't affect it as much because quite honestly, it's like it's practically pitch dark out here. The only thing I see is just a slight glow way off in the distance. And right now, as it stands, the fire is I mean, I can swing around. The fire is the only thing uh, that's lighting things up. Nothing. And that's the only thing that I've got. The only light out here right now is the fire. Uh, Yeah, no, I understand completely what you're talking about. But I'm really I'm really glad that there's very little out here. I mean, close to none. I mean, I like it. I don't even like having outside lights on the house. When I walk out here at night, there's no lights on. Um, unless I turn them on, or I got one light out there by where the truck is. It's got a motion sensor on it, so it only stays on for like 30 seconds or something like that. But it only comes on when something tricks the motion sensor. And other than that, it just stays dark out here. I like it that way, though. Whatever happened to the WoW signal? I'm always wondered if uh if they've come out if they've actually had another WoW signal come up. I've not heard of anything else, that's come up that's even similar to the WoW signal, or is that just the only one? I have no idea. Yeah, I've got a red lens on one of my flashlights. It makes it easier, keeps my nighttime vision. Um, but I try to do what I can without a flashlight, even when there's no moon out, which there's no moon out right now. Uh, or it is, or there is, it's just not up right now because I think it's not even quite half full right now as far as I know. But it's below the horizon right now, so I don't see it. I've never forgot the WoW signal personally, um, but I've always wondered if there's if anything else is cropped up that was like it, but because I haven't heard anything else about it. And that's interesting, Huckleberry, if that's true, Because I mean, there are people out there that are saying some stuff like, that that Atlas thing is not necessarily just a bunch of rocks that are floating this direction. So, and there supposedly was a signal that's been emanating from it, and there has, somebody has said that they've translated some of that shit. And if it's real, and the translation is real, which I can't prove one way or the other, if it is, it says something like, we've been watching and we are coming, kind of thing. Well, from what I understand, there's one massive one and nine smaller ones that are just, kind of like right around it, um, with the same trajectory, same speed, you know. So I don't know. Project Bluebeam. Well, yeah, that's possible. But if the flying saucers do come around, I'm gonna tell you something. I'm gonna steal one of them and I'm gonna go drive that sucker around the whole fucking place. I'm gonna take it for a joyride, by God. And Navy vet, I'm gonna tell you. I mean, that is something I have thought about too. You know, there's a lot of the scare tactics that aren't working, so they've got to come up with some new scare tactics and shit like that. Uh, I've got some big pieces of wood in there right now. They're gonna take a while to burn, so that'll be nice. But I also got to get a cushion for this fucking thing I'm sitting on. It's starting to hurt my ass. Ugh. Yeah, shit. Need something a little better than that. What you guys saying? What is it? Interesting timing. Interesting timing to have meeting with all the high-ranking officers and a lot more. Yeah, you know, it is interesting how things are. See, that's the thing too. I was like, there's a lot of things happening rapidly, and the timing is interesting on all of it. So, yeah. But, I'm at the, uh I'm at the point in my life, really, I'm not gonna get excited about a lot of stuff unless, uh, it starts really looking serious because all it is just lip service to me right now, um, a lot of posturing and a lot of, this and that, just well, Nate Vet, I've been saying this for a long time. I've been watching dominoes stack up. And quite honestly, man, I'm just waiting for the catalyst to knock over that first domino and just everything starts collapsing. So, I'm just keeping my eyes open for that catalyst, that initial spark to get everything going. And and quite honestly, it very well possibly could be already sparked and things are cascading. But I kind of imagine it like if I put out a world map or something like that on the table, I kind of imagine that like a big chessboard, and you got all the major players and everything else as the chess pieces, and I try to imagine like a a worldwide chess game going on between all the world powers that should not be, and how it's going to play out. Hey, a Jenga stack. It could be. I mean, it very well could be. I mean, like I said, I kind of look at it as a big chessboard. I mean, because I mean, I think they really do kind of play it like chess. It's a long game, trying to think about 3, 4 moves ahead of the opponent. The ultimate goal is to capture the queen, right? So whoever the queens are, uh, they're sitting back manipulating the board and the players on it, trying to save their own ass and control everything, control the board and control the players. Because it is a long game. I mean, a lot of these people, man, they're thinking past their own lifetime. They're thinking like hundreds of years into the future, and they know they will not see the fruits of their own labor because they'll be dead and gone unless they, you know, put themselves in like cryogenic sleep or some shit like that and wake up in a couple of 100 years or something, or clone themselves or some shit like that. Otherwise, they won't even see the fruits of their own labor until they're already dead. So but they play it out like a long con and manipulating everything as they go to achieve that that ultimate goal. I mean, I can't stress too much about when it comes down to that fucking digital ID and all that other shit, man. That's part of the long con. And we, as people in America and around the world, just the average people, we cannot allow uh, their game to play out because we are just nothing but, you know, expendable pieces on the board. And I don't want to be somebody's expendable piece. I can, as far as I'm concerned, I just want to burn the whole fucking board down, and so they can't do anything to us. Well, that might be the goal, Navy. I mean, that might be the goal. Wake up in a fucking world of idiocracy. It might be. I've been watching the UK also because I've been talking to a lot of people I know over there also, and I mean, there's actually talk of civil war over in the UK, which I've never heard of. Which is just recently I've been hearing talk of that, which is pretty pretty insane in my opinion. Hold on, I gotta get something else to sit under my ass because this is hurting my butt. What I'm sitting on. Grab me some cardboard or something. Maybe that'll be better. I'm gonna lower this tripod a little bit so I can see the chat better. There we go. I think that'll work. There you go. That's a little bit better. Well, digital ID, honestly, I think it's another one of those, same thing with like the fiat currency. They know it will not work, but it will it will create a way for them to steal a lot of our wealth before it all goes to shit. And I mean, it's the same thing with the fiat currency. I think it was a designed to fail, but up until that point, you know, they'll they have stolen most of our wealth in the process. Uh, 1984. I'm gonna tell you something, and that is the truth right there. I'm gonna tell you, when it comes down to it, it's the new world communist order. The new communist world order is keeping it going as it stands. And I agree, Huckleberry. We do need to start that. I mean, um, it's one of the things that I agree with when it comes down to Governor DeSantis here in Florida. Pretty much made it outlawed. The CBDC here in Florida, but there's a lot of stuff that just needs to be nationwide, and um, the digital ID needs to go away. I mean, honestly, unfortunately, like the state of Florida and a bunch of other states, um, they're in compliance with the real ID. So the digital ID is just the next step, in my opinion. And if the federal government basically requires states to becoming in compliance with it, that's the problem. Is these states following suit and become compliant, then it in turn basically forces um, everybody in that state to come in compliance also with the Real ID. Rip, what's going on? Yeah, I agree, Huckleberry. We should fight it tooth and nail. And I'm gonna tell you something, man. It's just that communist. I mean, you guys really have to remember and read the 45 goals of the Communist Party that was read into the congressional record back in 1963. Read every one of those goals. All right. And I will say this about the Communist Party. They they tend to achieve their goals, versus the goal of freedom. That goal really, it gets fought tooth and nail. And unfortunately, the communist agenda keeps on pushing along. What's up, Tressa? But you guys have to read that. I mean, honestly, I mean, these are some of the reasons, not all the reasons, but it's some of the reasons why we are where we are in this nation, is because those 45 goals are being completed and being instituted into policy or legislation or whatever. And quite honestly, man, that is my biggest beef, is that, yeah, we can have a free country and you can live as a communist in a free country, but you cannot live as a free people in a communist country. But when communism, socialism, democracy, Leninism, Marxism, and all that type of mentality uh, comes out of the free speech scenario and starts coming into legislation, that's where I have a problem. Where that mentality starts becoming law, I have a big problem with it. I mean, I don't give a shit if you want to be a communist and stuff. As far as I'm concerned, anybody that wants to be a communist or wants to live in a communist type of a state or anything like that, communist, socialism, democracy, whatever, all that shit. If you want to have that, I suggest you move into a country, move out of this country and go to a country that offers that. We should not even have that mentality at all in our nation, especially in leadership. I mean, I'm gonna tell you something, man. This is another thing too. I think we should ban anyone that is a foreign-born person in this nation getting into public, or the government or public service. Anyone, I don't care if you're not born in this nation, you should not even be allowed in public office or anything like that. Um, you know, and it drives me nuts because you get these people that are from another country and have that mentality of what that nation or that country has historically been, which is most likely, some kind of form of democracy, socialism, Leninism, Marxism, communism, and then bringing that mentality into this nation, and then getting into some kind of public office, and then instituting legislation with that mentality. That is how they erode, that death by a thousand cuts scenario. That's how they start eroding our nation, and it's been going on for a long time. But just in my lifetime, I've been seeing more and more of these fucking foreigners with foreigner communist mentality getting into the public office. And dual citizenship, I agree, that has to be eradicated. If you got dual citizenship, you cannot run for office. I think that is bullshit. You cannot be allegiance to two different nations or two different countries at the same time. You should be you should only have loyalty and allegiance to America and American people. Um, you know, that 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 drives me nuts. why aren't we standing up against this shit? And, but you got to understand, what is it, like 500 or 50 million or some shit like that, 50 million people in this nation or something. And like close to 25 million of them all work for the fucking government and they all vote. You know what I'm saying? So you got to understand, they're voting for the very system that they work for because they want to keep their fucking jobs. It is a conflict of interest, Pilgrim. Um, you cannot, I mean, and uh, since the powers that should not be are working the long con, they're working that long con. I think we, the people, need to stop, um, just living it or thinking about the here and now. We need to start thinking like a couple of 100 years into the future or more and acting like that and actually, building toward that, even though that they won't see the fruits of their labor. Um, Most likely we won't either, because I mean, I'm serious. Like I will not see the benefits and the fruits of my labor of trying to, wake people up or whatever, and give people information and open their eyes and, show them the door. And, because I might not see the people I've showed the door to, I might not see them actually opening the door and walking through it, because I'll probably be dead and gone. That will be the fruits of my labor of me showing them the door and them walking through it. That would be the fruits of my labor. But it's possible that I won't see that. But that's not going to stop me. But I think, we got to stop getting away from all this fucking bullshit, this polarizing shit, the here and now crap that really doesn't matter, and it keeps us from achieving the goal of freedom that we're supposed to have. And because I am adamantly against this worldwide prison colony. I'm sick and tired of it. And I'm sick and tired of everybody actually, there's so many people that are actually supporting and keeping this prison colony going. You know what I mean? They become the guards, they become the tattletales and the fucking the ones that build the infrastructure and shit like that, you know. Just because, we're getting a paycheck to put in like all the surveillance state bullshit, um, you know, that's just completing their goals, not our own. It's actually working against us, especially our future generations. Like I said, I start thinking, I've said this, I said this earlier. I was like, I'm curious to know what people 200 years from now will think of the videos that we are making today. If the internet and all that shit survives in 200 years, what they will be thinking of us then by watching the videos that we're putting out here right now, you know? And I agree, Teresa. I mean, it's one of them things. A lot of times you can plant a tree and you'll never see it in your lifetime. Depending on the type of tree, you'll probably never see the fruits of your labor when you plant that tree. And you'll probably be dead and gone by the time it grows fully up. You know what I mean? But the future generations will benefit from that tree, especially if it's a food bearing type of tree. Ladysmith. Man, it's so awesome to see you guys. Did not expect anybody to show up here this morning. I really didn't. I mean, like I said, I started the stream at freaking 4:20 a.m. my time, so I'm like, I didn't think anybody'd be up and I mean, hell, according to this, it's got 8 people, which is the most I've had on the damn stream in a while. And so, I mean, I really appreciate everybody coming in. This is awesome. And I appreciate the conversation in chat too, you guys. I really do. Like I said, if anybody does have any topics they want to talk about and they want to get up on panel and talk about it, stuff like that, you guys let me know and I'll put the link in. But otherwise, I'm just sitting here watching the fire and, you know, talking about what everybody else is talk about what everybody else is getting the kids ready up for school. Trace out right on. Well, like I said, I mean, it's now 11 minutes after 5 o'clock. So in about an hour, uh, the sun will start coming up. So it's possible, I'll sit here and watch the sun come up too. So, and I got a lot of wood over there. I don't know if you guys can see that, but got some wood over there that I can um, keep the fire going. Anyway, yeah, Trace. I mean, like I said, um, I got up. I mean, I went to bed kind of early last night, and like even before the sun went down, and then I got up around midnight, and I've been up ever since. And I was out here looking at the stars and shit, and I was like, well, shit, I'll just go ahead and get a fire going. Got the fire going, and I was like, well, hell, I might as well I'll get my phone out and do a live stream. Nobody else is doing one right now except for, there's a couple of people I've been that are live streaming some of the stuff going on over there in the UK right now with all the protests and shit. And that's about the only thing that's live at the moment that I noticed. So I was like, well, shit, I might as well go ahead and do something. Maybe somebody, but I didn't expect anybody to show up. So this is awesome to me. And Lady Smith, I'll tell you this, man. It's not. I mean, the temperature's just right for it to me right now. It's not really cold, but it's not really warm out right now. It's actually kind of nice out, and it's just a perfect, in my opinion, perfect weather for a fire. You know what I'm saying? And matter of fact, I need to poke this thing a little bit. Get some of those flames going a little bit better. Pilgrim, I'm gonna tell you, man. That is one of the. It's one of the things I'm concerned about because I see the UK as kind of like a testing ground. I mean, actually, I see a few other countries also, but I've been seeing like when it comes down to the Western countries or whatever, as testing grounds. The UK is just testing ground because I'm gonna tell you something, man. If they can force that type of shit over there, um, that might give the powers that should not be an idea that they can make that shit happen here. Um, so, and other countries that are involved, like I mean, all the people that are, all the countries that are involved in the EU, all the countries that are involved in Five Eyes, that includes Australia. Um, will try and push this shit like, kind of like a UN initiative and stuff like that. Yeah, like all the ones that are involved in NATO, they'll try and push that type of shit, making it kind of like a mandatory compliance for every country to come in compliance with. And then if the governments of those countries and stuff like that come in compliance with this uh this narrative, they'll try and push this stuff to here in the states. They'll try and push it to where every state becomes compliant with it. And then if every state comes compliant with it, everybody in that state are forced into it too. And what they'll do is they'll go through the state government first, well, the federal government, and then they'll go through the state government, which will in turn um, force compliance from businesses and shit like that in governments, buildings, and blah blah blah. So, like for instance, they did with the Real ID. Um, they'll force government entities and businesses to use digital ID and digital currency. Well, like they'll make it to where it would be uh, mandated or whatever, or mandatory uh, to use that shit. And anybody that's employed with those businesses that you know comply with that mandate, they'll be forced to get all that shit. Nana, what's going on? Morning time. They'll be forced into either you know submitting to that, or lose their job or whatever. That's how they'll play it. They'll do it like the COVID shit. They'll try and force this stuff onto government agencies and businesses and corporations and stuff like that. And those corporations and government agencies force it onto the employees, and the employees will have either the choice of complying or not. And if you're not complying with it, that's the thing that they're going to try and force the you know um, people into that scenario where they'll feel either compelled, coerced, or forced uh, into doing it, into using it. And the only way that it will not survive, the digital ID, the digital currency, the only way it will not survive is just if nobody uses it. If nobody uses it, that's the only way it will not survive. So we have to basically mass people around the world, not just here in America, but around the world, that just non-compliance. Do not use it. Do not just let it die. You know, I mean, I death to the new world order. Fuck them, some bitches. They're willing to kill us off. Why not? I see no harm in that, because I mean I consider it self-defense, in my opinion. Death to the new world order. Fuck them. Fuck all these people in positions of power, positions of uh, that like all these billion and trillionaires and all this other shit deciding our future, our destiny. Fuck that bullshit. There's a lot of people out there that actually believe that we do not have the capacity to govern ourselves. Well, if that is true, which I don't think it is, but if that is true, what makes anybody think that there can be a small group of people around the world that can govern billions and billions of people if we can't even govern ourselves? So it's just a bunch of psychopaths that are uh, hoodwinking a lot of people. They're just basically lying to us and trying to get everybody convinced that, well, we can't take care of ourselves. We need to have somebody do it for us. We can't govern our own selves. We need somebody else to do it for us. You know, it's like the food scenario. Um, we got to stop outsourcing our food. You know, we got to stop relying on other countries to supply us with our food. We've got to really start supporting our farmers and stuff like that in this country, so we can be self-sufficient in our nation. And also we got to start, educating people on how to be self-sufficient and to the point of, where we can govern ourselves, because I mean, honestly, I mean, there's some of the things that I don't know all the answers. I don't have all the answers, but I'll tell you this, like there's a couple of things that I think that we need to start thinking about. Um, it's like on our monetary scenario, we got to start thinking about creating our own money, creating our own banks, creating our own courts. Um, you know, especially here in America. I mean, we have the lawful right to do this, and we've not been educated or even um, um, we never even learned on how we can actually do these things, because they don't want us to know this stuff, because they want to have control, like the central banking, the central banking cartels and all that shit. They want to have control over all of our means of production and all our money and all this other shit. I mean, that's one of the reasons why they want to push this digital currency and digital ID, because in monetizing everything, tokenizing every single living thing on this planet, where all the resources are doled out at their discretion. I mean, this idea that there's a limited amount of resources on this planet is bullshit. That's a propaganda, um, by the powers that should not be, so they can charge us exorbitant amount of our labor to get these resources that they claim that is just um, very limited, which is not true. There's enough resources on this planet for everybody, and and this idea that there's too many people on this planet, that's bullshit too. There's enough resources and land on this planet for all of us, but like I said, the powers that should not be, they want to limit all those resources, so they can control the resources, and they can just, basically, you know, let us have the crumbs while they're sitting on the fat of the fucking hog. Yeah, they steal a lot of shit. It's flat out theft. It's like armed robbery. It technically is, basically. I mean, there's so much stuff that's done by the government at the point of a government gun. That's technically fucking armed robbery. You know, it's extortion, using kidnapping and theft and murder to achieve their goals. And I was saying this to somebody else not too long ago. I start talking about the idea of loyalty. Loyalty sounds good, but I'm gonna tell you something. Loyalty can be bought, to the highest bidder. I'm gonna tell you something. Whoever pays the most likely people will be loyal to whoever pays the most. So I'm not really. I'm loyal to myself. I'm loyal to my dogs. I'm loyal to my family, my loved ones. you know. I'm loyal to my friends, which I have very few, which I do that on purpose. There's not too many people out there where I would actually call a friend. I got a shitload of fucking acquaintances though. Yeah, we gotta stop outsourcing our food. I really it really bugs the shit out of me. We gotta stop relying on other countries to grow and feed us. We gotta stop shipping our food out. Well, I mean, as long as we're getting paid pretty good for it, but I mean, we can't keep on shipping out the best parts of our food to all these other countries, and in our country and the people in this country get the crap end of it. Because I mean, even the meat scenario. I mean, there's a lot of the best meats go to China, and we get the fucking crappy cuts. Which bugs the shit out of me. Mm. Oh man, it's such a beautiful night out here. The stars are bright. Right above me is Orion. And oh, wait a minute. Well, I can't get it on film because it won't show up on StreamYard, but I see one of those lights going across the sky right now. Doubt no, can't see it. It won't show up on StreamYard. I have to have it on a regular camera. But it's going right across the sky right now from it's interesting, man, because I don't know what these things are. It's just a solid white light about the size of a star, what it looks like a star, and it's going at a constant speed, pretty damn fast at a very high elevation across the sky. I have no idea what those things are. And I don't think they're satellites. I don't think they're drones. And I know they're not airplanes or anything like that. I have no idea what the fuck they are. I agree, Lady Smith. I'm gonna tell you, and it drives me nuts, man. The powers that should not be that are like the FDA. I mean, seriously, man, we cannot we cannot uh we got to stop thinking the FDA really know what the hell, what's good for us because they really don't. And if they do, they're actually on purposely poisoning us, allowing certain things to be in the public. Oh, I don't know if I said hi to you, Pilgrim, but yeah, good to see you, sir. Out there. I don't know if I can't remember if I said hello or not. Man, wish I had a better cushion to sit on. My ass is hurting. And that's another thing too, man. I don't like we said dependence and stuff. I was sitting there. I don't like the idea of being dependent. Um, And I don't like the idea of our nation being dependent on um, other nations or countries or whatever for us to live. And I don't like the idea of our people in this nation becoming dependent on the very government that wants us basically as prisoners in their own in this big prison colony. I don't like that. There's too many people that are dependent. And we've got to stop. We've got to get away from this mentality of dependence. We've got to become independent, away from that, you know, the opposite direction. Stop going with the rest of the herd over the cliff to our death. We've got to start running in the opposite direction. I mean, sprinting in the opposite direction. Um, Not walking, not crawling. I mean, fucking sprinting. Because we're on a runaway train on these tracks right now with no brakes, and we've got to do something. We've got to jump off this train and start going in the opposite direction somehow, and, or figure out how to derail this fucking train, or find another set of tracks where we can divert this train going to somewhere else. India, and you're right when it comes down to the medical part of it too. That's another part of it too. I mean, there's like I said, you guys really have to read the 45 goals of the Communist Party that was written into congressional record back in 1963. Read every single one of those goals. You'll understand some of the reasons why we are where we are, and you'll actually understand how much of these goals they've actually completed, that they've actually achieved. You really have to read through these things, man, and you'll understand because I mean, you know, it comes down to the education system, it comes down to the military, it comes down to the police force, it comes down to local and state governments, it comes down to the media, it comes down to our medication, our food, every fucking thing, and it's aligned with 2030, you know, Agenda 2030. It's aligned with that lockstep program. I mean, it really is. Um, that was the other reason why I kind of wish I had some way of pulling up, pulling stuff up, where I can, you know, I can sit here and just pull up the 45 goals on the screen and read them together. Bam. Pilgrim, I think the demoralization stage has already happened. I mean, you look around. I mean, quite honestly, man, you see all this jam tranny fucking bullshit. You saw this, all these fucking, you know, shit when it comes down to like Antifa and Black Lives Matter and all these fuckers that are flying the goddamn Palestinian and Mexican and Israeli flag here in America. I mean, the demoralization stage has already happened. We're in the destabilization stage, if not, well, yeah, I think we're in the destabilization stage. The next stage after that will be crisis. Bring the nation to crisis. All right, next thing you know, there'll be like major terrorist attacks. I mean, because I mean there are terrorist tactics that's been happening around in different countries around the world. And one of them would be like to really do some massive terrorist attacks would be like starting attacking fucking hospitals and shit. And at the very same moment, simultaneously, what's up, PDF? At the same time, simultaneously, while they're attacking hospitals and do like mass shootings or some shit like that or whatever, all at the same goddamn time, all over the fucking place. I mean, that's how they've done it in different countries. Um, and most likely there is some kind of lack of better sleeper cells and shit like that, or just sitting there, we're just waiting for moments like that to happen, and who's going to say, I mean, you think about like bringing things to crisis. I mean, shit, one of the terrorist attack type ideas would be just like strap a fucking bomb to themselves and walk into a fucking shopping mall or some shit, or whatever, um, or walk into a hospital and make it to where like emergency services are almost impossible to get because their places are all being attacked first. You know, like I said, the demoralization has already happened. Bringing the nation to destabilize it, that'd be the next step, and then the next step after that, bring the nation to crisis. Next step after that will be basically to implement the new world order solution, which is to normalize it all, you know, bring the nation to normalize the nation, you know, order out of that chaos, their idea of order out of that chaos. So if you have your eyes open and you're looking around, you see these tactics that are that have been in place for decades now, and how these goals are. You took my other channel. They don't like me reporting on the pedo cops. Well, see, that's another thing that I've also thought about too. Is like this idea of that's part of the demoralization. That's part of the destabilization. That's part of the controlling the narrative of the whole communist type of aspect. Um, you know, and then trying to keep that type of shit going, and keeping that information away from the average people, and keeping the conversation away. Where there's too many countries around the world as we speak right now that you cannot, and even in the past, you cannot speak negatively about the government or any kind of any part of the government or anything like that out in public. If you did that, if you did anything, anything like that, you would be punished by the government itself for doing that kind of thing. Or now we've got corporations that are in lockstep with government and all that stuff that are achieving these things. And then if you wanted to say any kind of thing that was negative or um, or critical of these things, the only way you would be able to say it is in a whisper in your own home between you and one other person where nobody else can hear it. That'd be that's how they want to force us into that box. They've done it many times through history. They're doing it as we speak now, you know, and that's what drives me nuts about the censorship thing, you know. Um, the way the private corporations are getting away with it is because the First Amendment is basically there to protect us from government making laws regarding freedom of speech. You know, they cannot implement laws that will interfere or restrict freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is not, you know, you know, free of consequences. You know, that's the reason why, like, you can, you know, if you know you say something, I can say that you're a fucking idiot. Um, it's just that, like, Congress cannot pass laws that will restrict or interfere or you know, anything when it comes down to your freedom of speech. That's the only thing the First Amendment really is. You know, it doesn't protect you from, like, you know, saying some stupid shit on fucking line, and the private corporation of that fucking social network can punish you from it. It doesn't protect you from saying some stupid shit online or out in the public or whatever, and your boss hears about it and decide to fire you. You know, it doesn't protect you from that shit. It doesn't protect you from saying some stupid shit to somebody and they punch you out, or, you know, they defend themselves or something like that from your fucking stupid ass shit, you know, or whatever. It doesn't protect you from, you know, getting called out, whatever, you know. I mean, I wouldn't say physical violence because you said something, because quite honestly, man, words don't fucking hurt if you let it, if you, unless you let it hurt you. You know what I'm saying? And that's the problem with especially today's generation. They get they get so they get so hurt about what people say. Yeah, free speech isn't free from consequences. That's true. Um, but the First Amendment protects from, um, I guess, consequences, if, you know, or lack of better words, you know, infringements or whatever, from Congress or the government itself, like passing laws. You know, kind of like they want to try and pass laws and stuff like that. Like if you say anything negative about Israel or say something, you know, you know, hate speech, this bullshit, this idea of fucking hate speech and stuff, that is an infringement on the First Amendment. You know, but, you know, I have the right to be offensive. I also have the right to be offended, just like anybody else. You know what I mean? Um, if you get offended, who gives a fuck? You know, you have that right to be offended. I also have the right to offend you. You know what I'm saying? But I also, if I offend you, you also have the right to try and offend me back. You know what I'm saying? Because you got offended. You know, but I get offended that you got offended or got offended, and then I'm like, well, fuck, you got offended. Who gives a flying fuck if you got offended? Fuck your feelings. You know what I'm saying? There is that. You know what I mean? So, but like I said, if you actually read the actual Constitution, when it comes down to it, when it comes down to the freedom of speech, regarding freedom of speech under the First Amendment, it only is supposed to protect us from government enacting laws that restrict or interfere or whatever on our First Amendment freedom of speech. But I mean, you know, they've got things on there that's basically a restriction, basically, when it comes down to it, and, you know, inciting violence, um, you know, like um, what is it? Inciting violence and something else. Um, you know, they do have those restrictions that they put on on freedom of speech. And it drives me nuts because I see these, like, you know, these um uh you know, these city council meetings and stuff like that, disturbing the peace. Well, disturbing the peace, you know, that usually constitutes a physical act. Um, you know what I mean? But anyway, it drives me nuts when I see like these city council meetings and shit like that. And these fucking people that are city councilmen and shit like that get offended because when they have the comment section or the comment section of the meeting where the public comment section of the meeting where they come up and they start you know cussing out the city councilman or the mayor or whatever, and they get offended, and then they want to use the police to arrest them or charge them with trespassing or whatever else because they didn't like the profanity. Well, that's protected under the freedom of speech. I mean, hell, there was a damn court is a fuck the draft. Remember that case when where the guy wore the fucking fuck the draft on his jacket? I mean, that is protected. I mean, these city councilmen, they're basically breaking the fucking law, and they're paying cops to enforce their will, which is also they're breaking the law by doing it. The cops are, and but we need, as a people, need our own enforcement to basically punish these government officials when they break the law. They expect us to obey the law, but yet they don't follow it themselves. You know, and there has to be punishment for that. The government expects us to get punished. You know, when we don't obey by their rules or their laws or whatever. Noise pollution is louder than a refrigerator. That could actually arrest us for it. You know, see, that's the thing. You know, there's just way too many things like that people, that we get punished for. I mean, shit. I'll give you an example. Here in Florida, um, they got, I mean, they got these laws or whatever, these traffic codes or whatever in almost a lot of states when it comes down to window tint. All right. And I'm gonna tell you something, man. I've just gotten down to the point nowadays, man. If I see a car, if I see a car or a vehicle or whatever that's got dark tinted windows, I assume it's a cop, because cops do not adhere to that. They've granted themselves immunity from that shit, but they'll pass out tickets all day long for that bullshit. But yet they think that they reserve the immunity from that. And we got to stop letting government investigate themselves, because every time the government investigates themselves, they always find no wrongdoing. And I don't really care if the government shuts down. As far as I'm concerned, if the government does shut down, man, we got to stop paying them. We got to stop paying them. Why pay them if they're not even fucking working? We got to stop paying these motherfuckers. These are our employees, man. The only problem is that we're being extorted out of our hard-earned labor to pay these motherfuckers. And as far as I'm concerned, I mean, is our life going to fucking change if the government shuts down? I mean, seriously, is anybody in this chat, any of your lives going to change in any way if the government shuts down today? And most likely it won't. But yet we're still being fleeced out of our hard-earned labor, the means of our hard-earned labor to pay for these motherfuckers to keep on doing nothing in our best interest anyway. Oh, I can't really see it, but the sun's trying to peek up. The sun's trying to peek up over the trees. Yeah. Pilgrim, it won't affect me at all. When Clinton shut down the government, he got out of debt. Yeah, fuck that fucking cunt. I'm so sick and tired of these fucking government officials becoming billionaires and shit and making it a lifetime career. I'm so sick and tired of this thing. I'm so sick and tired of these people that are up there for 40, 50 years and shit become billionaires and they don't do anything, in my opinion, that fucking benefits anybody in this nation. Well, the common people anyway. It only benefits the other billionaires around the fucking nation. Well, like I said, PDF earlier is like I think there's I don't know. I'm just guessing on. I can't remember the exact numbers. I want to say there's probably like what 50. I think probably close to 50 million people in this fucking nation. I don't know. I can't remember. And I would say probably 25, maybe 30 million of those people all work for the government. And that's another thing too. The government really wants almost everybody either working for it and dependent on it. That's what, because the government only gives a shit about the continuity of government. That's its only thing that it cares about. This 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 legal fiction called government, which is a corporation actually, all they give a shit about is the continuity of government. And the best way to keep that continuity is to have everybody working for it and dependent on it. That's how to keep that continuity. CQ, what is going on? Good morning, girl. Like I said, anybody that's in the chat, if you guys have anything you want to talk about, any topics or anything like that, and you feel like you want to come up on panel, just let me know. I put the link in. Otherwise, you know, I'm just kind of sitting here and watching the fire and watching the sun. It's starting to. I can see light starting to peek up behind the trees now. So I'll be sitting here watching the sun come up. And but if anybody, especially if I know you, if I don't know you, I can't. I ain't letting you up. But if anybody that wants to come up and they want to talk, you guys just let me know and I'll throw the link in. But I'm just glad. I mean, shit, I've got 9 people in chat so far. This is awesome, man. I haven't had this many people in chat in a while, so this is pretty cool. I don't know. It's one of them things, y'all. I I don't have all the answers, and I never claimed to have all the answers. Shit, if I had all the answers, I'd be in a better position than I am in my own life. You know what I mean? So I don't have all the answers. Um, I think if we went in different directions than where we are now, I think things would probably be better. But not everybody's on board with my viewpoint. Not everybody's on board with the way I think things should. We should we should conduct ourselves. Um, because I mean I'm not a leader. I don't, nor do I claim to be a leader. Um, and quite honestly, I think too many people rely on these people that claim or want to be leaders. Um, I think the best leaders are the ones that don't want to be leaders. And some people think I am a leader in some ways, but I don't. I don't want to be your leader, nor do I claim to even want that position. You know what I mean? Because I know I don't have all the answers. And I don't know. I think the ones that really seek out those positions are the ones that are very dangerous, in my opinion. You know, um, they claim they'll be, uh, good rulers, and they claim that they mean, to be, they claim to mean well, but they mean to be your ruler. You know, I don't think anyone um should be your ruler, and I don't think anyone should be your slave. Yeah. PDF, I'm gonna tell you something. When I was 16, 15, 16 years old, in some ways I kind of thought I knew everything also in some ways. But, the older I get, the more I know I don't know anything. Even the thing, even things that I've learned over the years, because I'm kind of a jack of all trades. I never really focused on one particular thing, so I never became a master at anything. Um, so I've just kind of get a lot of answers from bathing suits. So I hear you. Yeah. And honestly, Pilgrim, I'm gonna tell you, man, I think that even grown people, um, ego really gets the better of them. You know, I see this with cops. There's a lot of cops around this nation, or even worldwide, but I'm just speaking from this nation. There's so many cops in this nation that their ego really gets the best of them, and that becomes dangerous because they're in the position where they can take away your freedom and they can take away your life, and there's no punishment for that because they have immunity. I think we need to abolish all forms of qualified immunity, judicial immunity, fucking executive immunity, all that shit. I mean, that has to be abolished, period. PDF, man, I'm gonna tell you something, man. For when I first got this phone, I couldn't figure out how to turn it off either. At first, I mean, it's got like a little AI thing inside there where you can ask a question. I actually had to ask the AI how to turn the fucking phone off, to shut it off altogether and stuff. But then I started doing some other figuring out, and I kind of figured out how I do it. On this phone, I have to hold the power button and the down volume button at the same time, hold it down for a little bit, and then it'll give me options on, turning it off, reset, or whatever, da 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 da. But it didn't tell you that in the owner's manual. And I was like, how in the fuck do you turn this goddamn thing off? You know? And I hate these new phones where you can't remove the battery. I hate that. Yeah, ask a third grader. It might be it. You know, you got to ask a third grader how to do that shit, man. That's fucked up though, man. Because I mean, that to me is just like, it's like, makes me think that we're all getting fucking old. It's like, grandpa coming over to the damn grandson. Hey, grandson, come over here and tell me how to work this damn thing, man. This newfangled technology, I can't figure it out. And say you got your grandson coming over there and telling you how and showing you how to do this shit. Yeah, yeah. And then I'm gonna tell you, that's the thing. It's like it barely even has a fucking owner's manual or anything like that. It just basically tells you how to set up the phone, and that's basically it. It doesn't give you like it. That's another thing too. There's a lot of operating system type stuff that only like the developers know how to access in your phone, and that will if you're able to open up some of those developer type menus and stuff, you can alter different things in your phone. There's different things that you can turn on or off when it comes down to, like, I don't know, um, like for instance, you got third parties that are actually that can access your phone and shit like that. There is ways to either turn on or off those things um, through that. But even that, I don't really. Yeah, the quick start paper. That was basically pretty much all I got with my phone too. There's a few things that I've done to the phone since then that I had to research this actually particular phone just to do certain things or access different parts of the developer options and shit. And also, like I said, just a simple action of actually turning the phone off, not just pushing the off button and where the screen goes down. I mean, actually turning it off. You know what I mean? Steph, what's going on? Morning time, morning time. 14 freaking people in here. Holy crap. Indy, if it's because you're sharing it out that I'm like, thank you. This is awesome. I mean, I don't know if I don't know if anybody else is live at the moment, but I must be one of the only people that are live right now. So that might be one reason why everybody's starting to come in and finding me over here. Morning lurkers. Yeah, no kidding. And the sun is starting to come up over there. See it? So it's becoming morning time. Here, I'll put it over on the sunrise for a little bit. Get half the fire and half the sunrise in there. I'll do that. How's that? That look good? And you might be able to hear the birds chirping in the morning here too. Rescue is on. Oh, okay. I don't have the ability to sit there and play you guys music or anything like that. But so you're gonna have to deal with me and my dumb ass talking. But yeah, it's only 6 o'clock here. Um, CQ. It's only 6 o'clock for 4 minutes after 6 over here. Yep. Yep. PDF. You're sitting there watching the same sunrise as I am. Yours is probably just a little bit more than me right now, though, because you're just a little bit over to the east of me. So, but you can see, like, I do have a few clouds out there in the distance, like that one right there. But otherwise, it's somewhat clear. I mean, there's somewhat. I don't know what the weather is going to be like today. I have no idea. Native morning time, morning time. Another hot day in South Central Kentucky. I used to live in Kentucky for a little while. I lived in Morganfield, right outside of Louisville. I used to live out there. Got rain ahead of the hurricane. Yeah, well, I'm not, I don't think we're going to get a whole lot where I'm at when it comes down to the hurricane, unless one of them crawls up the fucking Gulf or something like that. But other than that, or comes across the state. But other than that, I don't think we're going to get too much of that. We might get some rain off of it, but I don't know. I don't think we're going to get too much off of that hurricane from where I'm sitting. I'm not really worried about them too much, man. I've been through quite a few hurricanes in my life. Not, con, too concerned about them too much. I know what to do when it comes down to hurricanes. Yeah, it's pretty nice though. I mean, it's like right over there is where I think the sun's coming up at. Or I think, well, actually, it might be, yeah, it's over this direction. Over here is where the sun's coming up. You know, in that direction. 75% chance. Yeah, you've seen your share of hurricanes up in North Carolina. Yeah, when Hurricane Helene came through, man, actually, I used to live right in those areas where it hit hard. Like I lived in Lake Lure. I lived in Asheville for a while. So I mean, it's kind of heartbreaking to see some of the places that some of my childhood in. Um, because when let's see here, I think I moved out of Orlando when I was probably, I don't know, 13, 14 or something like that. Um, and I ended up moving to Lake Lure um, when I was like 15 or 16 years old or something like that. That was back when, Dirty Dancing was being filmed out there, or around the time when Dirty Dancing was filmed, around the time, or I was like, and then was it Dancing with Wolves or some shit like that? When well, not Last of the Mohicans, that's what it was. Last of the Mohicans was filmed out there, and um, I went to Edneyville High School. That that's not even a thing anymore. I think it's now they've changed it to West Hendersonville, or some shit like that, Hendersonville High or some shit like that. but Edneyville doesn't even have a school anymore or whatever. But and then I moved to Asheville, lived there for a while, and it's heartbreaking to see what the damage it's done to Lake Lure and even some of the places I used to live in Asheville. But Lake Lure, man, I'm gonna tell you, it is definitely not the same as it used to be after that hurricane. Yeah, when I used to live in Asheville, I used to work out on Mount Pisgah. You know, there's an inn up there on Mount Pisgah called the Pisgah Inn out there on the Parkway and shit like that. Yeah, I used to work up there as a cook, and I used to love. I mean, you know, it's a long drive, but I used to love driving out there in the mountains, out there on the parkways and shit, and I was back actually at one time. I used to live in a 1976 Cadillac hearse with a bored out 502 engine, and it had tie dye curtains and Grateful Dead stickers on it. And me and some friends, we'd take that thing up on the parkway up there and back it into one of those like mountain overlooks and shit right there on the parkway, and open the back. You know, I had like a futon mattress in the back of the hearse, and hell, I could fit probably like close to 10 or 12 close friends in that car. And we set up lawn chairs on the roof of that thing and open up the back of that sucker, just looking over the parkway, over the mountains and stuff. It was cool, man. I had a blast back then. Back before Jerry died and Grateful Dead, we used to take it to Dead concerts. I did two different Dead concerts. And we took that hearse to and parked it out there in the parking lot and sold Grateful Dead T-shirts right out of the back of the hearse. Never actually saw the concert. I spent all the time out in the parking lot. I had a blast though, but I never saw the concert. And then when Jerry died, um, all the Deadheads that I knew, they switched from following the Dead. They ended up starting following Fish everywhere, and I never really got into Fish. It wasn't all that great to me, but and I just kind of, I don't know, I kind of dropped out a lot of that shit. I used to go to a lot of rainbow gatherings around the country too. Like here in Florida, they got one every year over in the Ocala National Forest. And I've been to that 3 times. Um, but I also did the circuit. Basically, you know, it's like when one when one gathering would end in one national forest, another one would begin in another national forest, and then when that ends, another one would start. And it's like, you know, you can just go all over the fucking country, going from one national forest to the next, to the next, to the next, and shit, and basically just stay in the national forest for a long time, just going from one gathering to the next. Yeah. I mean, you know, I have to say PDF. I mean, I've been to many different excuse me. I've been to many different concerts, you know, all kinds of different concerts and shit through my life. And I'll tell you this, man, I've had more fun in the parking lot at these concerts than I've actually had at the concert itself. You know, I mean, there are a few concerts that I've been through where where I actually had access to backstage and shit. That was cool. But majority of the time, I had more fun out in the fucking parking lot than I did actually at the concert. I'm gonna move to a different spot here. Move over here. Get a better view. Here we go. Ozfest. I have not been to an Ozfest, man, but um, it would be kind of cool just to watch. There was one time I was at a gathering in the Ocala National Forest, and it was an unfortunate thing though, but a fucking shitload of fucking sheriff's department and shit like that came in there full fucking force and busted a lot of people, and it was a big deal, man. It was a pain in the ass, but busting a lot of fucking bunch of hippies out in the middle of the goddamn woods, not bothering anybody, and they had to fucking come in there and fuck the whole thing up. It actually was a sucky time, but otherwise I had fun. Yeah, I haven't really decided what I'm gonna do today. I haven't really decided, but I also haven't really figured out what the day is going to be like either. I mean, I haven't really looked at the weather or anything like that, so I have no idea if it's gonna be a clear, nice day or or it's gonna try and rain or not. Dude, I'm telling you, CQ, I've been to so many damn gatherings and stuff that would last for like a couple of weeks. I'd be the first one on site, man. I'd be the last one in cleanup. I'd be like one of the last people cleaning up the place, and leaving the forest is better or cleaner than when we found it. That shit, and move on to the next one. And I used to um, I used to have my own what I called the coffee shop. It was just my campsite. We called it the Lost and Now Found Cafe. That's what we called my campsite. And we usually would camp kind of like on the outskirts of like where main circle and all that shit, where everybody else was kind of like gathered and stuff. where a majority of people were camped out at, and we were kind of on the outskirts. And the only people that would actually end up, finding our camp would be people that got lost out there in the national forest or something like that. They just stumble on my campsite or something like that. And what we do is we sit them down by the fire and give them a cup of coffee and roll them a cigarette and sit there and bullshit with them, and then tell them how, give them directions on how to get back to wherever they're going and stuff like that. And that's what we did. I had about, I don't know, probably about 5 of us that kind of traveled around a lot together. I did a lot of it by myself, but there was about 5 of us that kind of found each other a lot, and we'd all gather and camp in one area, together. And that's what we called it. We called ours the Lost and Now Found Cafe. If I ever open up a coffee shop, that's what I'm gonna call it. The Lost and Now Found Cafe. Um, yeah, autocorrect is irritating. I'm telling you, man. It depends on what application I'm using, man. It gets either better or worse. There's some applications like I got what is it, Tubi, that streaming movie service or whatever. Oh man, I'm gonna tell you, man. The talk to text thing with autocorrect, it fucks me up every goddamn time. So it's not even worth fucking using. I have to type everything out. And then I got a buddy of mine that lives not that far away from me, and he's not from Florida. He's actually from Connecticut, and he's got a lisp, and with that Connecticut type accent, dude. The text, the talk to text thing, it doesn't understand a word he's fucking saying. He'll sit there and use that shit to send me a text sometimes, and it's like reading a different language. And I'm sitting there, I'm like trying to figure out what he's trying to say, and I'm like, what the hell? What the fuck is this? And I'll resend it back to him. I'm like, what the fuck are you trying to tell me here? You know what I mean? Yeah, yeah. CQ Tubi's, it sucks when it comes down to that shit. I don't know why. And I will sit there and try to pronounce each word slowly enough where it should understand me, instead of like speaking fast and stuff. I'll like the I'll say it kind of like that, to try and get each word to come out, and it will just make up its own fucking, it'll make up its own shit, you know. So I just get frustrated. I have to type everything out. Shit, I think I might have to make me some coffee. Think about it. Yeah. You guys talk amongst yourselves for a second. I'm gonna go get my coffee going, and I'll be right back, y'all. Enjoy the sunrise. All right, getting some coffee going. PDF. Actually, my family's been in Florida since they started colonized through St. Augustine, and well, at least my dad's side of the family, anyway. And I have no idea if there's any Seminole Indian in my bloodline or not. I have no idea, but I wouldn't doubt if there is. But my dad's side of the family were one of the first families that colonized through St. Augustine, so we've been here forever. Well, not forever, but I mean, you know what I'm saying. PDF, when you talk about trust, I'm telling you, I've been trying to tell my sister this too, because now the land that I'm sitting on is now my sister's. When my dad passed away, she's got power of attorney over this piece of property and stuff now. And been telling her, I was like, we need to put this into a trust. We need to put this into a trust and uh and everything on it and everything, all that stuff, man. Um, we need to start looking into like trying to get it into like an allodial title or whatever, or something like that. And and then on top of that, hopefully, DeSantis really does go through with basically eliminating property taxes. I think they need to eliminate property taxes altogether. I mean, period. It shouldn't be there in the first place, so it needs to be eliminated altogether. And I don't like politicians at all, but I'm going to tell you something. It would be nice if he actually gets that done. And it's like I said, property taxes, technically, the way I see it and the way I understand it, it's unconstitutional anyway. And honestly, man, I really don't like how they've converted. See, there's a lot of property around here. Even my family back in the day, around here, had large pieces of property that were in under a was it land patents. A lot of them because after the Civil War, stuff like that. I mean, this was granted from the president and all this stuff. These land patents and stuff. And they've converted a lot of these land patents into titles and deeds and all that other shit, which is bullshit because the land patent, the government had no ability to tax it, had no ability to um, dictate what we did with that property. They couldn't tell us what we could or could not build on that property. None of that stuff with the land patents. And And it's just over the, past couple of years, it's been converted into deeds and titles and all this other shit. and that's basically converting our right, and then on top of that are able to pass that on to future generations. It's a way the government can, is claimed ownership of the land everywhere, you know, and that's just the way I understand it. It's antithetical to the Constitution anyway. You know, the government doesn't own our fucking land. You know what I mean? And we're not supposed to be renting this fucking land from the government. It's ours. Once we buy it and pay for it, it's ours. Um, but yes, when it comes down to trusts, these are ways. It's like even the government uses it. All the high powered people, that's what they use to protect their assets and their property and stuff like that, is through trusts. Why do you think that there's "In God We Trust" is written on the fiat currency? Because it's a trust. It's actually a debt. That the Federal Reserve and all that shit is not even a part of the federal government. It's actually a foreign corporation. Same thing with the IRS. It's not even a part of the fucking United States of America. These are independent, fucking privately owned corporations. What'd you say, Indy? You two removed my comment about property tax. I fucking hate censorship, man. I have the same problem with certain things, and I'm just like, I don't understand why these things get eliminated. Certain comments get eliminated because I've said some things. I've wrote some stuff on comment sections or something like chats and stuff like that, and it will get deleted, immediately. And I'm like, what the fuck? I mean, I didn't write any. I mean, I don't know what I put. It's stupid shit. And I had to do the same thing. It's like say one word at a time, which kind of fucking sucks. I hate that censorship shit, and I can't stand that crap. That's the reason why I'm thinking about alternative ways of communications. That's why I was bringing up that, I brought up that whole creating our own television stations type of scenario, to where we have control over our information versus corporations or governments controlling our communications. I really cannot stand this shit where we are subjugated into this um, the ability of these corporations and government agencies controlling our speech, controlling our thought, controlling all that shit. I hate it. I can't stand it. This is a problem that they created. All right. I think we need to eliminate what causes the problems. All the problems that we have in this nation and in our lives, you got to understand and realize what creates those problems. What creates those problems? And we got to start eliminating what created those problems instead of trying to fix the fucking problems. Because quite honestly, if you just eliminate what causes the problem, you won't have to worry about the problem itself. You know what I'm saying? And that's where I think a lot of people uh, uh, don't understand that concept. They're all busy about, oh, we gotta fix the problems and we gotta do this and that. No, no, no. The problems were created. So yeah, it's kind of like, okay, you see, I don't know, I've got some stuff growing over there. All right, now let's say I had, I don't know, like a disease or a invasive beetle or something like that that's starting to destroy my crop over there. All right, all right. Um, that's creating a problem where, next thing you know, my crop will be killed off. Well, instead of trying to fix the problem, you have to eliminate what's causing the problem. Like, for instance, if it's a disease, that spreads, the ones that are infested with this disease, you got to pull them out of your garden so it doesn't infect the rest of the garden. If it's like, invasive I don't know, insect or some shit like that. You got to eliminate that infestation. And then you won't have to worry about the problem that those things are causing because that problem will not exist anymore. That's the thing that I'm trying to, put in people's heads. We got to stop trying to fix the problems. All right. Because the problems, it's a problem reaction solution scenario. They've created the problem. They want you to have this fear-based reaction like, oh, government, please help us fix this. Well, the government's the ones that created the problem. So they've got the pre-planned solution already waiting for you to demand them to fix it. So if you just eliminate what causes the problems, that causes all the fucking problems that we have in this nation, high prices, fucking, the shit fucking poisonous foods, all the weather modification, whatever these problems that affect all of us, taxation, da 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 da, all these problems that affect all of us. Instead of trying to fix those problems, we have to eliminate what causes the problems. And then we won't have to worry about the problems because they won't exist. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, I just think that's where a lot of people miss that point because they've been conditioned into thinking, oh, we got to fix these problems. We got all these problems, blah, blah, blah. If we just had more laws, you know what I mean? That's what drives me nuts. That so many people think it's like on the gun issue. There's so many people out there thinking that we got all these problems. Like it's the gun problem. You know what I mean? All right. Well, and they think that if we just make more laws that will fix it. Well, if we just outlaw guns, that would just stop all the fucking killing in this fucking nation. Oh yeah, that maybe we should just maybe we should make murder illegal. Maybe we should make, drugs illegal. I mean, that would stop all the drug use and that would stop all the murder, right? People don't get that fucking rationale there. We've got laws that makes murder illegal. We've got laws as it stands right now that make certain drugs illegal, but it hasn't stopped fucking shit. What every law that they creates criminals, no matter what. All right, because if anything they ban or make illegal, it creates like a black market. It creates criminals that will do violent things to keep that thing going. All right. So the more laws that are instilled, or the more the more restrictions, and the more things that are banned or made illegal or whatever, it creates more and more problems. It doesn't solve the problems, it just creates more problems. And then it also makes average people, into the government's eyes, a criminal. I mean, I'll give you an example. Back in the day when prohibition for alcohol was put into effect, all right? And I don't know exactly when those words were actually put down on paper, but let's just say that when that stuff came into effect, it was like at midnight at this date or whatever. All right. At 11:58 and 11:59, you're sitting in a bar and you're drinking alcohol. At 12 o'clock, you are now a criminal because of the prohibition and because you've got alcohol and you're drinking alcohol. You have now become a criminal in the government's eyes because some jackass wrote some fancy words on a fancy piece of paper and that he expects all of us to bow down and comply with. Like, oh my God, they sprinkle some pixie dust on top of it, and then we're all supposed to just like, oh, we must obey. That's bullshit, man. It's another way of they're perpetuating their legitimacy, you know. I mean, it's the same thing with any kind of, same thing with cops. Cops do the same thing. It's like, they need people to think that we need them. because it perpetuates their necessity or their legitimacy to even be there in the first place. You know, breaking the law, breaking the law. The only true law is from the creator, and the word law itself actually stands for land, air, and water, and only the creator creates law. The creator creates all things, like when it comes down to land, air, and water. Humans don't create law. Humans create statutes, codes, policies, rules, regulations, mandates, acts, all that other shit. That's what humans create. But only the creator creates law. And that's what a lot of people don't understand these things for some reason. I don't understand why people don't understand this, but a lot of people don't, you know. But I get it in some ways. Too many people are, trying to live their lives, put food on the table, have a roof over their head, and that is what most people are concerned with, which I understand. I get it. I understand that, but there's other people out there, the psychopaths that are not satisfied with just that. They want to control and micromanage everybody's fucking lives. They're not content with their own life. They want to control and everybody's lives. And that's another thing too, PDF. I'm gonna tell you something, man. Like pot, it's a fucking weed, man. It grows naturally. It's a fucking weed. You know what I mean? What gives the government the right to make that illegal? You know what I mean? Well, it's the compliance and the enforcement part of it. These little fancy words that people write on these fancy pieces of paper, calling it statutes and codes and all this other shit, won't mean a goddamn thing if there's nobody to comply with it and nobody to enforce it. If there was nobody to comply with it and enforce it, they would not mean a goddamn thing. And that's where it's at. Because I really don't fear these psychopaths that write those fancy words. I don't really fear those at all. It's the ones that are willing to comply and enforce it. Those are the ones that I am really concerned about. It's like when the COVID shit went on, the ones that are calling the cops because you weren't wearing a mask. Those are the type of people that I am concerned about. And the cops that were actually enforce this bullshit. Oh, you're not wearing a mask? Oh my God, I'm gonna arrest your ass, that kind of shit. These are the type of people, the men, the minds that I am concerned about. Oh, good night. Hey, good morning there, Indy. You have a good, I'll catch you later on the flip side. You have a good one out there. Don't let the sunlight hit you. You might start burning up like the rest of us vampires. And native, I agree when it comes down to it. I'm gonna tell you something, man. To me, the law of the creator, the creator's law, the ones that the creator creates, the laws that the creator creates, I think those are the only objective truth. Everything else that men or humans create, all the other shit, are subjective. That's why I'm like, it's what bothers me. Like, for instance, you know, to go on, I know that, you know, uh, the supreme law of the land is not necessarily the creator's laws, but we have a supreme law of the land in this country. All right. But the problem is that there are too many people that think that the opinion of the Supreme Court is the supreme law of the land. And really, that's all it is an opinion. When it comes down to these black robe fucking tyrants that make, all these judges and shit, their opinion, and that's all it is. Their interpretation of these laws becomes the supreme law of the land. That's bullshit. It's either we have the supreme law of the land or we fucking don't. and then it's at the whim of these black robe tyrants on what they decide their opinion is going to be, or their interpretation of this shit is. And that's why I say a lot of this stuff is just subjective, and it's at the whim of these fuckers, whoever might be in power at that time. It's kind of like here in Florida. We had open carry before the 80s. Like, I think it was before 83. And then it was at the whim of some fucking black robe tyrant that fucking all this other bullshit stuff that open carry became illegal in Florida. And all of a sudden, just recently, at the whim of a black robe tyrant, they decided, well, no, that was actually unconstitutional. Well, quite honestly, it was unconstitutional from the fucking beginning to even infringe on our fucking gun rights altogether. But yet, some fucking opinion of some fucking judge, these black robe motherfuckers up there, decided this and that, and made everyone at the stroke of a fucking pen of their opinion a criminal if they did not obey these fancy words they wrote on a fancy piece of paper. Yeah, PDF. I was too. Quite honestly, man, if I was to go back in time, when a lot of the Europeans came into this nation, if I was alive at that time, I would be on the side of the people that were here on this land first, that were here already, and I would actually motivate them to kick those motherfuckers out and burn their goddamn boats as they fucking park them out there in the ocean. Yeah, open carry is now. That's a good thing. I mean, in some ways, it kind of. I mean, it's not like. I mean, there's a lot of these sheriffs and shit like that are kind of like, trying to throw this fear aspect and stuff. It's like, oh, even though it is open carry, you really shouldn't open carry, because it leaves you open to to be a victim, because, you could be in a store and somebody wanted to rob the store and you become the first person they want to take out because they see your sidearm. Well, I mean, quite honestly, if there was 15 motherfuckers in that store that were all open carrying and stuff, I don't think that person trying to rob the store is going to try and go after all 15 of those people to rob the fucking store. You know what I mean? And then on top of that, there is that legality scenario. When it comes down to, like, for instance, even if I was concealed carrying, all right, and I or had my pistol on my hip, on my belt, all right, and I just had my shirt pulled down over it, all right, that's technically concealed carry because you can't see it, whatever, all right. But if I was just somewhere and I was reaching up and my shirt came up enough where you could see my firearm, before the open carry scenario, then there could be legal scenarios, because somebody can say, oh, he's got a gun, that kind of shit. Well, now with the open carry, on the legal aspect, I don't have to worry about that as much, because even if I had it concealed and it became unconcealed for a moment, I won't. There won't be any legal actions and stuff like that. That like brandishing a weapon or whatever. Da 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 da. Da. Or brandishing a weapon is like actually pulling it out and pointing it. But I mean, more like just you know making it exposed. I agree. I mean, everyone that has been charged with these things in the past should be compensated and for those charges. It's kind of like some of these places that have made marijuana legal for recreational use and all this other shit. Everyone that has been charged for possession or anything like that in those states should be compensated for those actions. You know what I'm saying? Now that it's legal. Same thing with open carry. Everyone that has in Florida that has had any kind of charges because, uh, because of the open carry scenario, um, anyone that has it should be compensated. It should be compensated. And quite honestly, man, we need to start punishing fucking government officials or anybody that wants to write up these bills and all this other shit. Anybody that tries to put any kind of legislation out there that is antithetical and is not in concert with the Constitution should be punished. Because then once like cops and something like that, when they start violating our natural rights that are supposed to be protected under the Constitution that they took an oath to, they need to be fucking punished immediately punished. And one of the things, like if they don't offer the ability for them to retire, or don't offer them to the ability to resign, they need to be fired. They need to either be imprisoned or put in jail, whatever, and all that stuff. And then they should not have the ability. Should have their license taken away also, so they can't just like resign and then go to the next county and get another damn job as a cop again. That has to be eliminated. Because this fucking shell game bullshit needs to stop. It needs to fucking stop. You know, and they should not be able to get hired ever again in law enforcement or even a security guard ever. Once they have one aspect on their record, you know, and they should not be able to be able. They should be losing their license and never get it back again, and they should never be in that type of position ever again. As far as I'm concerned, a lot of these cops around the fucking nation, the only way I see that they can benefit in society, quote unquote society, I mean, hell, all they're qualified to do is go out there on the side of the road and pick up cigarette butts. That's what I think they're qualified to do. You know, they should not be in those positions and not be able to be allowed. And we need to eliminate the qualified immunity nationwide. We got to stop protecting government. We got to stop letting government protect itself. You know what I mean? Because, like I said, when government investigates itself, it always finds no wrongdoing. And it drives me nuts. You see these videos, for instance, of some guy getting arrested. He was an innocent man. Some guy getting arrested, and a fucking cop sits there and fucking kicks him in the goddamn head. And then the news media will sit there and say, well, allegedly he got kicked in the head. Well, no, it wasn't allegedly. The motherfucker, you can see it right there on the fucking video. He got kicked in the fucking head. And then you got the sheriff department making their public statement. Oh, we've got to do our investigation, because we got to wait until all the facts are in. It's like, what the fuck do you need? There's a video, a body camera or whatever of the fucking cop kicking the guy in the head. There's nothing allegedly about it. We got to stop this fucking bullshit. We've got to stop. We got to fucking stand up against this shit as a fucking nation. It's just stupid, man. We've got, we're giving too much. We're allowing too much, giving too much of our sovereignty, our individual sovereignty away to the government. What are you talking about, Nana? Hold on. Let me back up. What the fuck? I don't know. Well, I agree in a lot of ways, Lady Smith, but there's a part of me that I understand and I get it. We've been domesticated into fucking domesticated animals. That's what it is. Majority of people have been domesticated. You know, our wild sense has been tamed, and that's what it is. You know, because I mean, um, even back in the day when there were slave plantations and all that other shit. All right, we're just in a more massive and global slave plantation right now. But they had a system to basically, if you were to relate it to horses, the what they did is they would break the spirit of the slave and and eradicate that wildness out of the slave or out of the people and domesticate them, tame them. And that's exactly how they kept slaves as slaves for so long because they were broken. They were broken out of their wildness. They were broken. That's how cultures through, for centuries, that's how they've done it. That's how That's how empires and kingdoms and governments have done that to the average people. They've broken us from our wild sense, our natural state, into this domesticated, tame, fucking bullshit, in my opinion. Bullshit stuff. And that's the problem. And I know I'm just going off on some bullshit. I know I tend to rant on some shit sometimes. I know, I get it. I'll be right back. I got to go grab some coffee. That was stupid of me. I had everything fucking set up and everything like that, and I forgot to put the water in the goddamn machine. So I was sitting here thinking that damn thing was going to be made by now. Quit a little bit. What are you doing? And I forgot to put the water in the machine. Everybody rants. Yeah, and I appreciate you guys fucking hanging out and listening to it, you know, and but there are times, man, like I said, like I said at the beginning in the stream, I really didn't have anything to talk about, what I mean? Because quite honestly, a lot of these points have been said many times before, not by just me, so there is a part of me, I feel like sometimes I feel like a broken record, you know, but these things are still relevant and still affecting not just me, but everybody. And so, but I mean, that's the reason why a lot of the stuff that I talk about sometimes, or I go on a rant about, is still relevant. No, I agree with you, Native. I really do. Because I mean, if you let this type of stuff fester in your mind, it will become dangerous. It will become like a disease or a virus. It will. It would actually. It'll start eating away at you. And and I know that. You know, sometimes you do have to kind of talk it out. You know what I'm saying? And I don't expect you guys to agree with me. I don't expect any of that shit. I mean, um, and I'm always up to debate or conversations on things too. You know what I mean? Because I know I don't know everything. And I might be wrong on some things. And I'm open to to look at other perspectives and stuff like that. And might be something that I might have. I have to like sit there and let that fry my noodle for a minute, and then I'm like, well, wait a minute, maybe the way I was looking at it wasn't quite right or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes, I mean, I kind of sometimes need that sometimes, you know what I mean, in my life. Is that third party looking in, observing it from outside of, and and that can see things that I can't. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Because I'm always talking to a lot of different people from a lot of different places. You know what I mean? Because we all have different perspectives. You know, I mean, there are things that I just don't see from my perspective. There's things that you guys can see from your perspective that that I might not see. Um, and then there's also perspectives that neither one of us would see. You know what I mean? If we were all looking at the same thing, we all have our own perspective depending on what angle we're looking at it, right? But there's also a couple of few angles that none of us are looking at, none of us are seeing. And that's the reason why I like, having conversations with people. So maybe we can see those other perspectives that we're not aware of, you know. And then I think that's one of the things that I think is really interesting about, or one of the damaging things in this quote unquote society, that a lot of the choices that we think we have, those choices were technically provided by people, by someone else. So this idea of choice sometimes is illusional, is an illusionary type of scenario, because the choices were provided to us in the first place. So technically, did we even have a choice? It's kind of like, I don't vote in government and stuff like that because I don't see government as a legitimate thing in the first place. But you got to understand, like, even, this perception or this illusion of choice that you have when it comes down to voting, that's exactly what it is. It's an illusion because the choices were provided to you. So did you really even have a choice? I mean, technically, if you had an actual choice, um, it would be for, like, for instance, voting. You would vote for somebody that's not even on the ballot. And I mean, I know people that are much more qualified, in my opinion, but they're not on the ballot. So that choice is not even there. So the choices were provided to you, and that's what they said. Well, we're going to give you these choices. Like, kind of like cops things. Like, you got two choices. You can go this the easy way or the hard way. Well, quite honestly, I see a third choice that you didn't offer that choice. There's a third choice. I don't have to fucking do a goddamn thing. you know, the easy way, the hard way. That's the choices you really got. That's the choices that they actually provide you, the government and all this other shit. Those are the true choices they provide to you. You can do this the easy way or the hard way. And both of them, you end up on the shit end of the stick. You know what I mean? Doesn't matter what side, hard way or the easy way. You both get the end of shit end of the stick. I agree, CQ. I agree. But, you got to understand also when it comes down to the First Amendment, when it comes down to freedom of speech and all this other shit, that is um that is a threat to communism. That's the reason why all through fucking history, the ones that are trying to um um you know get that dialogue, get that conversation and be able to, and speak their minds and all that stuff, they end up getting eliminated because that is the true threat to communism or anything on that communism in all its forms. Put it that way. Same thing with democracy. Democracy is a threat to our constitutional republic. You know, if there is, because I mean, honestly, I don't think we've actually had a constitutional republic ever since fucking the Civil War. I mean, quite honestly, I think Lincoln fucking when we became a union, I think our constitutional republic went to shit directly after that. I don't think we've been living in a constitutional republic practically a year after the Constitution was signed and ratified. You know what I mean? That's just the way I see history. We've been subverted away from that kind of shit from the fucking get go. You know, we've been living in this fucking fantasy world. Like they try to instill this ideal that this and that for our many generations, but in practice, it hasn't been that way. You know, quite honestly, I mean, it's like the constitutional republic and capitalism has been an ideal for a couple of hundred years. In practice, it hasn't been that way. It hasn't been that in practice. In theory and in ideals, it has been, but in practice, it hasn't. And it drives me nuts, man. It's like I was getting into the conversation about like the driver versus traveler scenario. You know, it's like there's so much stuff when it comes down to our natural rights that are supposed to be protected under the Constitution that have been basically ignored with just the implementation of the fucking the traffic codes and shit like that, and case law and precedents that have been stacked on top of it. It's like our Fourth Amendment is practically just disappears when a cop pulls you over. You know, it's our natural right, Fourth Amendment and Fifth Amendment and all that other shit is practically ignored. Because they got a fucking call. Oh, we got a call for service, therefore all your fucking rights disappear. In practice, that's what ends up happening. That's what ends up happening. You know, in theory, it's not supposed to happen, but in practice, that's what happens. No, and I agree. Actually, I mean, CQ. I mean, because quite honestly, man, from the get go and all this shit, we've been indebted to the fucking England and the central banking cartels and the Rockefellers and the fucking Carnegie Foundation and all this other bullshit for a long goddamn time. There's a lot of these fucking things, these private individuals and agencies and all these corporations, and all this shit that have subjugated us and they had to domesticate us. That's why Rockefellers and the Carnegie Foundation started up the public school systems, because they needed to have a population that weren't critical thinkers. They had a population that didn't question their fucking shit. So that's why they had to create the public school system, to create obedient fucking workers, And I mean, it's been subverted from freedom from the fucking get go. I blame Lincoln on a lot of shit, because I think it all started back then. A lot of it did, and then 1913 came into play with fucking the creation of the Federal Reserve, the IRS, the birth certificate, Social Security, all this bullshit, you know, and income taxes that technically doesn't do anything or stay in the nation at all. Goes income taxes actually to pay the interest on the debt to the fucking king of fucking England. You know what I mean? It's all bullshit. I mean, and that's the thing. It's like it's just gotten so fucking big now. Quite honestly, you know, 2 generations back, maybe 3 generations back, we might have had a chance if we had gotten together as a nation and put a stop to it. And it's getting so much harder now because we've allowed it for so long. We've let it happen. And we've got too many people that are willing to comply and too many people that are willing to enforce their bullshit. And CQ actually, it's also it's not just horse and buggy, and it's not just fucking walking or a bicycle. It's actually an automobile also. You can even look in the traffic code and all that stuff. There's a difference, the legal definitions and also the traffic code. There's a difference between an automobile and a motor vehicle. All right. An automobile is basically considered household goods, your private property. All right. Motor vehicle is a commercial term. That's why they want everybody to that have both, to hoodwink everybody into believing that we are drivers, which is a commercial term. Driving is a commercial term. Motor vehicle is a commercial term. Traffic is a commercial term. These are commercial scenarios. All right. And that's why they've hoodwinked everybody into believing that, because they saw a monetary gain, a revenue source out of this. When all that stuff was invented in the first place, it was only to keep track of people that were actually conducting commerce using our roadways, which is delivery truck drivers, taxi drivers, and to keep track of the government fleet, like police cars and ambulances and fire departments and all that stuff. These are the ones that were using the roads to make money. Okay. Those are the only ones that should be paying taxes to upkeep the roads. The rest of us are just travelers. All right. We paid for all these fucking roads in the beginning with our ancestors' lives. The blood of our ancestors is what paid for these fucking roads. The upkeep, it was only supposed to be paid for by the ones that are conducting business on the roads, basically making a profit using the roadways. All right. When you're just trying to live out your life, going to the store and coming back, you're a traveler. You're not making money doing that. And that's the thing. They've converted it to where they realized they can make revenue off of this, and they've converted make it to where they make everyone believe that we're all drivers. And then when everybody started believing that we're all drivers, they've tried to enforce it to the point of mandatory, where it was like, you have to do this. You have to, because when I get a driver's license, technically, by the letter of the law, I am actually committing perjury. I am actually lying to get a driver license. I am claiming to be a driver, and I'm claiming that my automobile is now a motor vehicle. They they've convinced us to convert our natural rights into a privilege that is regulated by the fucking government. And that's what it is. They've basically hoodwinked all of us and making our natural rights and converting them into privileges. Where you get in contract with the government, you know. And when you're in a contract, you have to abide by the contract. You will be held, punishable if you do not comply and abide by the contract. And that's the thing, you know. We're all travelers until we start doing business and making money on the goddamn roads. Like for instance, like I said, how it was originally started is like if you're a delivery truck driver, you're making money using the roads. If you're a taxi driver, you're conducting a business, you're making money using the roads. Cops, they make money using the roads. All the government fleet make money using the roads. Those are the only ones that should pay tax to keep the upkeep of the roads. Not all of us. You know what I mean? That's what drives me nuts, you know. But anyway, I digress. Social Security, and I've had a, I don't know. I'm only 50. The only problem is like, I think I got 15 more years because I think it's what is it, um, 65 where I can collect Social Security. And they're actually talking about raising that age again. It's like they're actually um counting on me dying before I can collect my Social Security. And then on top of that, I started thinking about it's like what is like the it peaked in 2024 where there is so much money that is being stolen out of Social Security, basically, being paid out to illegals. There's also a lot of monies that are being stolen through fraud, because of identity theft and all this other shit. So I start thinking about it. It's like in 15 years when I'm technically eligible for fucking Social Security, there ain't going to be no goddamn money left in there. You know what I mean? Because the money I put in there is technically not what I'm going to be getting back. No, that money that I put in while I'm alive technically pays the Social Security of future generations. So the past generations that put in monies is where they're going to get the monies to pay my Social Security when I get eligible for it. You know what I mean? And then they just give me the crumbs, you know? They just give me the fucking crumbs. Quite honestly, when I get eligible for Social Security, I want all of it, every single penny of it in one lump sum. That's what I want. I don't want just like a couple $100 a fucking month. Fuck that shit. No, give me the whole goddamn shit that I fucking earned in my lifetime and fucking give it back in one lump fucking sum. My goddamn money anyway, right? I mean, shit, quite honestly, I would have been better off and probably had more money if I just stashed all that goddamn money every time I put Social Security, all the money that I put in Social Security, if I just stashed it in a goddamn mason jar and buried it into the fucking yard, and saved it until I'm 65. Dude, I'd probably have a shitload more money sitting there stashed away versus putting it in fucking Social Security. You know what I mean? Where the government can dip into it and fucking next thing you know, all these other fucking scenarios can, steal it through fraud and whatever else. And then on top of that, the government giving fucking Social Security numbers to illegals and fucking next thing you know, they're being paid out. What the fuck? They didn't put any money into the goddamn Social Security. They're not even American citizens. Why in the fuck should they even get any of that shit? Yeah. fucking pieces of shits. Okay, maybe I got coffee made there. Oh yeah, I definitely got coffee now. All right. Surprisingly, there's still, let's see here, what, 5 people left in here? I haven't chased anybody off yet, I guess, or I've only chased a few people off. They probably need to go get some sleep. But I don't know, man. I digress. I digress. I'll tell you this: when it comes down to that, they're talking about raising the damn age for Social Security. Like I said, I think they're counting on me being dead and gone, so they don't have to pay out. I think that's another thing. The reason why they keep on raising the age up and shit, they're just waiting for everybody to fucking pass away, so they don't have to pay anybody out. They're counting on that. It's like insurance is a fucking racket, you know. If I, like if I paid the insurance all my fucking life for like vehicle insurance or something like that, I paid insurance all my goddamn life. All right. And I get to an age where I don't drive anymore. All right. I should get all that fucking money back. Every single fucking bit of that fucking money I put into it all my fucking life from the age of 16 all the way up to the point of when I stopped driving, I should get all that fucking insurance money back. Every bit of it. But no, it's just gone. It's just gone. Especially like for instance, I did a lifetime, for instance. I mean, let's just say I did a lifetime of driving. Never got into an accident, never had to use my insurance for an accident or anything like that. Um, you know, and then I get to an age where I don't drive anymore. I should get every single bit of that fucking money that I put into insurance, all of it back. I should get all of it back. But no, because of this fucking racket called insurance, I don't get none of it. Nothing. It all just disappears. Yeah, those are my girls. Got my coffee though. I'm doing all right this moment. Wish I had a big fat blunt to sit here and smoke while I'm sitting here talking though. That'd be nice. They're a mixed mutts. They're just mixed. Got a lot in them. I mean, the dark one is the mother, and her mother had German Shepherd, Blue Heeler, and Pit. And the dark one, her father is my cousin's dog, and I'm not sure what all he's got in him. My cousin's dog kind of looks like the light colored one. That's the daughter of the brown one, and or the dark colored one. That's the daughter, and that kind of the color looks like the father. And but like I said, they're just mutts. Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. CQ, I'm gonna tell you, they know that the average, mostly everybody dies around 70, 75. So, you know, they're counting on most of us dying off and before they have to pay any of that shit out, you know. They're counting on that. That's why they keep on raising the age to get Social Security higher and higher. But like I said, I'm 50 years old. I think that I won't be, I think the age is 65. I think, I don't know for sure, but I think it is. But that means I got 15 more years before I'm technically eligible, unless they raise it up to 70, 75 or whatever it is. And, the rate it's going right now, in 15 years, will there be anything in Social Security to pay out? They keep on giving it out to the goddamn illegals and shit like that. And PDF, I mean, that's the thing. If I had no if I was educated and knew more about this shit when I was younger, I wouldn't be even doing Social Security at all. I would have, corrected my status, gotten rid of the birth certificate and Social Security card and all that shit when I was, younger. And instead of putting money into Social Security, I would have been putting it in a mason jar and burying it out in the goddamn yard. And you think about it, how much money you would have saved up every fucking year you put money aside like you would for Social Security, or every month or every week or whatever, you know what I mean? And you put it aside, you think about how much money you would have saved up all your life to the age of 65, for instance. You'd have a good chunk of change. I'm gonna tell you straight up. And quite honestly, I wish I had done that, starting at the age of 16, for instance. I mean, to put something over this thing so because I can barely see those dogs until I put like a shade over the camera. You know? No, I agree with you, PDF. And quite honestly, man, if I didn't have to worry about government coming down on me for growing weed, I'd become a farmer out here on this property. That's an honest living. You know, I'd sit here and I'd grow weed for a fucking, to make a living. I would do that in a heartbeat, man. I'd, that's like I said, that's an honest living in my opinion. You know, and I'd grow weed um for a couple of different things. I'd grow it for like fuel uses, textile uses, um, all kinds of different uses on other than like medical or medicinal or even recreational use. I'd grow it for like all kinds of other industries. Like I said, because you can make a fuel, you can make oil, you can make textiles, you can make paper, you can make all kinds of other stuff out of that shit. Not just smoking it and getting a good buzz. And I think, man, shit, if I didn't have to worry about government coming down on me, man, I'd start a farm tomorrow. Another thing that I mean, I've thought about, and it's really just not a really high demand for it here in America yet, but I think bamboo. I think bamboo is a good thing that I wouldn't mind uh starting because I mean, there's so many industries out here like the paper industry or construction industry that uses like, pine wood and all that shit. Um um there's a lot of stuff that can be made out of bamboo when it comes down to construction and when it comes down to furniture and all this other shit. And there's a lot of Asian countries that do that shit. And I think that would be another good type of industry here in America if it starts getting more widely used. You know what I mean? I wouldn't mind having a bamboo fucking, um, you know, uh, nursery in a sense, and become a farmer, a bamboo farmer. Why not? I mean, it's just a grass. It grows pretty damn quick. You know, Bamboo and marijuana. I think that would be a good thing to get into. It's just I don't know, just one of them things. Because I think about things that when it comes down to things to grow, I think about things that will grow that can grow fast, things that actually have many different types of uses and stuff. Like I said, marijuana and bamboo both have multiple uses. It's not just one use type of thing. They have multiple uses. So I think it's a good in those are two good things that could make good money. And it's an honest living, like I said. Farming is an honest living. And it could be another industry that we just don't take advantage of here in America. They're adorable. Yeah, they can be. They can be. They can be fucking pain in the asses sometimes too. but I love them. I love them both. Oh man, coffee's good. I'm gonna tell you, if the shit ever hit the fan, when it comes down to food products and stuff and food stuff, coffee, sugar, um, chocolate, salt and pepper. Um, these will be like gold and silver in those times, like in the shit hit the fan scenario. They'll be extremely valuable, in my opinion. A grove, a grove of like bamboo. Is that what you're talking about, CQ? I can find shark's teeth in the springs, or no, some of the springs around here. I mean, that just tells me that majority of Florida was underwater in the ocean at one time. Because I mean, I can find shark's teeth in the springs, you know, out here in Florida, which is kind of interesting. I used to go when I was living in Orlando. I used to go to Rock Springs down there in Apopka, and um, just sifting through the sand in the spring, I can find shark's teeth, which is pretty cool. Damn, that airplane is really fucking low. I've had this like single engine airplane flying around this property, slowing the engine real low, real slow, and that went, and it just came back around really fucking low. That was interesting. Is these single engine airplanes? I don't know if it's the same one or not, but probably a damn spy plane fucking spying on me and shit. Talking too much fucking real shit, that's what it is. Motherfucker circling around. What is it doing? Coming back around. see here. It's coming back around. It is. Hold on. You hear it? Look. There it is right there. See how low it is? Oh, you guys didn't see it, did you? Fucking. Hold on. I don't know. Let me see if it's gonna circle back around again. I don't know. Let me go over here and look. It's over there. It's right over there. See it right up there? Let's see here. Let's see if it's gonna circle back around, come back around, because it came really low, right over the house. Well, let's see. I'll keep an eye out. Next time I'll try and see if I can get it on video. There's a single engine prop plane. Fucking, to me, that's suspicious. To me, it's suspicious, man. Actually, there was somebody that found a one of those like megalodon type shark's teeth in one of the springs, right around, not that far away from where I'm at. Actually, quite a few years ago, but um, that was interesting. Like I said, majority of Florida was underneath oceans and stuff like that at one time, so that's the only reason why you would find them out here. And anywhere you find shark's teeth, you know, so far inland, that should tell anybody that, at one time that was under an ocean. Yeah, if you notice CQ, you see how the grass is all cut and all that stuff right through here? All of this property out here, how it's all the grass is cut. That's because my uncle, mostly my uncle, he likes that um, state park golf course type of look, and he claimed, because my aunt, she was Korean when she was alive. She's Korean, and I got a lot of relatives that are in Korea and stuff like that. So he's always fascinated by Asian gardening and stuff like that. The only problem is that a lot of his thought process is influenced by European type landscaping, not necessarily Asian, because quite honestly, this is not an Asian type landscape. You know what I'm saying? This is more of a European looking stuff. All this like golf course state park look. I know like traditional Asian type gardens and landscaping is more in harmony with nature versus, you know, having very little trees and lawns. You know what I mean? That's just not traditional Asian uh, landscape or gardening. You know, I can't stand this Asian, this European, like, very little trees and the grass is manicured. I really don't see that as being um in harmony with nature, in my opinion. So I don't like it. It might look nice, but it's not what I want personally. Personally, I would like to have a lot more trees. It used to be. back when I was a kid, all this property used to be a lot more trees. Shit, my battery's getting low. I'm probably gonna have to move inside the house if I want to keep the stream going and put my phone on charge. But I don't know. I've been going on for about 3 hours. Matter of fact, I've been going on for 3 hours and 29 minutes and 26 seconds. It'll be 3.5 hours. So I'm just going to go ahead and call it, y'all. I'm going to go ahead and call it at 3.5 and shut the stream down and go put my phone on charge. And I appreciate everybody that came in and hung out with me for a while and actually, contributed in the chat. Y'all have a good morning. This is the 1122 Wingnut Radio back out.